This is the Resistance Report for March 3rd, 2017. What we're trying to do here is give you context, connect the dots, give you a way of understanding how individual stories might link up and provide larger patterns and context in terms of understanding what's going on. Maybe the way to begin is just to point out that this administration, the Trump administration, clearly is the most lying administration in recent American history. Most administrations do embellish the truth. There is obviously something called spin, but this administration, the Trump administration, actually lies baldly and patently. And it's not just Donald Trump himself, but it's also many of the people who Donald Trump has put into office, into the White House, or into his cabinet. Trump's lies are legion, and he keeps telling them, lies that have consequences, such as that he was elected by a landslide or that there has been massive voting fraud. By the way, that last lie of massive voting fraud is being acted on in state legislatures even today in terms of making it more difficult for people to vote, requiring photo IDs and other forms of identification, when in fact there is no evidence, not one iota of evidence, that there has been voting fraud, that there was voting fraud in the 2016 election, not even a small amount of voting fraud. I mean, there was no voting fraud. And yet, these lies and the consequences of these lies motivate action, motivate political change. Lies that Trump says and repeats, such as the dangers and also the criminality of immigrants, particularly unauthorized, undocumented immigrants. And therefore, we have the public believing that somehow the rate of murder and mayhem and rape by unauthorized or undocumented immigrants is higher than the proportionality of these kinds of crimes by native-born Americans, when this is far from the truth. In fact, it's the opposite. The rate of crime by people who are unauthorized immigrants, who are undocumented immigrants, is much lower than the crime rate by people who are native-born Americans. And I could go on and on. Donald Trump's lies are mirrored in a smaller version of mirroring by many of the people around him. Scott Pruitt, the Environmental Agency Administrator, the EPA Administrator, has lied to Congress about use of his email accounts, and he continues to lie about the dangers posed by climate change. Tom Price, Secretary of Health and Human Services, he lied in his confirmation hearings about a sweetheart deal to purchase stock in a biotech company, but he also continues to lie in many ways about how we can replace Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. And right now, and today, Republicans on the Hill are coming up with what they say is a replacement for Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, but they have not revealed it, and the little we know about it is it involves tax credits and tax deductions which don't grow with inflation, and which poor people and working class people have a very difficult time of turning into cash because they don't use much by way of tax credits and tax deductions. And then we have Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, who falsely told Congress during his confirmation hearings that his financial firm didn't engage in robo-signing of foreclosure documents. Well, here he is right now, Secretary of Treasury, and is he